Welcome. My name is Damon Brown. I am an entrepreneur and I'm a business coach to many of y'all that are side hustlers, solopreneurs, otherwise non traditional entrepreneurs. You're watching the Bring Your Worth show at Bring Your Worth TV. I appreciate y'all. Shout out to y'all over on Amazon, the Prime Life over there. I don't know why I'm calling it that, but that's what we're going to call it today. Shout out to y'all over on LinkedIn. Shout out to y'all watching on X, Twitter, whatever it's called, and on Facebook Meta, whatever you want to call it, as well as the folks that are watching directly on Bring Your Worth TV. Bring Your Worth TV comes to you every Wednesday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You can check me out. There's also some bonus videos that happen during the week, as well as lots of shorts and some cool stuff that has been happening. Thanks for all the thousands of subscribers that have come through. If you want to join the 18,000 plus people that have subscribed to this show, click the link below. It is free. Enjoy it. If you're on Amazon, you can just click on the link for the follow, as well as a follow on other platforms. You can get the complete Bring Your Worth collection made with my little hands. It's the three major business book series that I've done in the past 8 years. Believe it or not, it's been 8 years already since the original best-selling Bites Entrepreneur came out. All the books are in here, at least most of them. Hint, hint. We got some future stuff happening, but most of the collection is in here. Be sure and check it out if you're playing some catch up. If you want to step up your level, whether it's passive income, emotional intelligence to lead or be a better leader, better, be a better leader, better, even to manage stuff. I'm primary caregiver and also a stay-at-home dad. My partner and I's two sons. Been on this journey for just over a decade. Our eldest is about to turn 11. And so I know what it's like to build startups and build a family. And so I love to help you on your journey. Give a shout if you're in that same boat and let me know if I can support you at all. You know, as a business coach or otherwise, you can learn more about me at damonbrown.net. It's kind of a crazy time, or at least it will be a crazy time. I think it's already a little crazy with the things that are happening in politics. Moxie is a social media platform. If you know my work, you know I don't rock with a lot of social media platforms. The amount of social media platforms I'm involved in, I can count on two fingers. That'll be, well, I'm not even going to mention them, but if you know, you know. Me getting involved with this platform was really important. This will be my third. And Moxie is really trying to have a nonpartisan approach to talking about political issues that are coming up. I actually have a platform on there. The link is right there. If you want to join for free and get 2 months free, it's usually a small charge for it, 2 months for free. Just click the link below, put in my name backwards, Brown Damon, essentially my handle, and you'll be able to get some of that discourse. My discussions are nonpartisan, but they also are very much about things that are happening right now. We have a presidential election coming up in America in less than 6 months. Hard to believe, time is flying. And then we have a lot of stuff going on overseas in China and other places. So wherever you're at, there's usually, or at least this year, there's a lot of political action happening. What political policies or discussions are going to affect the non-traditional entrepreneur? That's my focus. Thanks to all of y'all that have already subscribed. Be sure and check it out. And overall, it's a good company. Shout out to Cesar, the founder over there. He's trying to do good work. It also is a great resource to learn more about the political actions that are happening in your particular neighborhood or area, particularly if you're based in America. Had a surprise bonus episode. Wrong link. Surprise bonus episode that premiered on Sunday. Sunday. If you're old enough to remember that, then you're my people. Sunday. Last Sunday, I had the complete series of my time as entrepreneur in residence. Entrepreneur in residence. I can spell it better than I can say it. Entrepreneur in residence over at the Toledo Lucas Public Library. Of their library systems, one of the strongest and I think biggest library systems in the country. I was honored to be entrepreneur in residence with them a handful of years ago. Shout out to Jason, who's leading over there, as well as Linda and other people who have been so supportive. And you know who you are. I hope y'all are doing well. When I lived over in Toledo, this is the first time this whole series has been put together. I did actually four different keynotes. The fourth keynote, there's just an excerpt in that, but these three major keynotes that talk about building, bringing your worth, and building up your particular business. I actually am sharing them. It's audio only, so you can listen to it on your walk, on your jog, to get some inspiration. Be sure and check out the vibes. I'm happy to share it with y'all, and the feedback has been wonderful. Be sure and check it out. And if you like it, throw a comment in there, share it with somebody that needs to hear how to become an entrepreneur in these days and times. All right, today's show, which I pulled the trigger on early, but you see me though. Declutter your small business. I talked about this in my newsletter at joindamon.me. You can join for free. It's every Wednesday. So early this morning, I sent a newsletter to you guys, and I was talking about how I have so much clutter. There's a little bit of clutter here. I'm not even going to pan the camera. You guys are good. But even my bookshelf, I move over there. It's starting to lean a little bit. There's some books that are missing. It's a little bit of chaos there. What I want to talk about today are methods that even I'm using. So I'm not just saying, I'm trying to walk the walk as well, that I'm using to declutter. One of the challenges that we have when we run a small business is that for most of us that run a small business, we own or wear many hats. It's CEO, COO, CFO, really important. We'll have a future episode about that. Or you can look at some of the past episodes about passive income and building money and profit into your business. But we're also wearing the hat of janitor, maid, administrative assistant. Oftentimes, part of our job as independents, is just organize stuff. I don't want to say stuff. I'm trying to keep it kid friendly. Organizing our stuff, and we have so much stuff. As I've talked about in previous books, including some of the books highlighted in the complete Bring Your Worth collection, we're now dealing with two types of clutter, right? We have the physical clutter, which is what I've been talking about. You'll see it in the thumbnail when you clicked on it. But there's also the digital clutter. And when we started to go digital, we assumed, at least that was the argument, that we would have less physical clutter. But instead, we have two different things. We have physical clutter and we have digital clutter. So today we're going to talk about a few ways that we can get our mindset right around our clutter so we have less of it, and then also giving some practical tools and services that will help you get less clutter going on. So let's start with the first question. If you have any questions, hop into the comments. The first question you want to ask yourself is, what is my priority right now? What is my priority right now? What is important right now? A lot of the clutter that we deal with, personally, professionally, across the board. And as the saying goes, how we do one thing is how we do everything. If we're dealing with that, it often reflects some confusion around what's important to us. In other words, if we're saying that spending time with our kids, again, I have two kids, spending time with our kids is really important to us, but then, making up the corporate ladder is really important to us. But then maximizing our health for our age is important to us. But then again, spending time with extended family is important to us. But like you see, it starts to get murky. And as one of the books that I'm going to suggest later on the program talks about, the word priority actually comes from, I want to say it's Greek in root, and it means the one. It means the thing, not the 15 things, not the 20 things, not the things that are more than one finger. It means the one. In other words, when we say, oh, there's so many priorities, that's actually not true. There's only one priority. That's what makes a priority. It's prior, it's one, it's the thing, right? As the popular book said, a decade and a half ago, it's the one thing. It's the one thing that we're supposed to be focused on. So often when we end up having a lot of clutter, it's reflective of us not really being clear as far as what we're trying to do or what's most important to us. When it comes to our business specifically, as far as knowing what our priority is, I found it comes down to three different things. The first thing is, where is our revenue coming from? Like, they call it the economic or financial engine. How are you paying the bills, right? Or how is your company paying the bills, more specifically? So revenue is the first thing. The second thing is service. How do you actually want to show up? Me doing this program is part of me showing up. This is me serving y'all as a community. So it's revenue, it's service, and lastly, it's demand. What are people asking? So if you understand where your revenue comes from, what's paying the bills, if you understand how you want to serve, so how are you serving people, the service, and three, if you understand the demand, what are people asking? You can balance things based on where that strongest priority is. Sometimes people are going to be demanding something that you don't want to serve in that way, but it makes sense for what they need at the moment because you're trying to get them to the next level. And there might not be as much revenue, but there's so much demand for it. Then you're like, yeah, I'm going to prioritize that. It could be revenue. This isn't exactly what I want to do, and people aren't asking for it as much, but the amount of money that's available there allows me to keep my business running. And in fact, it allowed me to cushion myself for the future, and I can take bigger risks that are closer to what I want to do. And of course, there's service. I want to serve people in a certain way. The money might not be as high, and demand might not be there as much, but I believe this is serving them the best way. Using that equation of those three, it's more than two, but only got two hands. But figuring out the balance between those three will allow you to figure out what your priority is. A lot of the stuff that I focus on right now at this moment is based on service because there's a certain way that I'm serving y'all that makes the most sense. So I'm doing ghostwriting behind the scenes. I'm working on the show and making it more robust and more fun. I'm actually doing some other work, which I can't wait to share with y'all. But this all makes sense. And so the things that are organized or disorganized within my office should be based on that. If I'm doing a lot of ghostwriting, which I am right now, then there should be a ton of books all around the place. There should be research that I'm doing and things that I'm focusing on that are making me a better writer and communicator. That makes perfect sense because that's how I'm serving people. If there was a different type of revenue that was coming in, then everything will be organized around that particular type of revenue. And of course, if there was a certain demand that was coming from y'all as my customers or my consumers, then things will be oriented around that. I think we often get into trouble with clutter, whether it's mental clutter, personal clutter, whatever, because we don't know what to focus on. So, what are you focused on? A lot of my focus has been behind the scenes. That's why I have less episodes of the show. If you notice that, I used to do like 3 or 4 episodes a week. Now I'm only doing 1 or 2 episodes because I'm doing so much stuff behind the scenes. And there's a way that I can serve you guys more by actually appearing less. That is reducing the clutter in my schedule. Go figure. All that stuff stems from me knowing what the priority is in my business at this very moment. So it's almost like taking a step back and saying, what exactly am I focused on? And is that the most important thing to do right now? In a very practical way, one way to declutter is Dropbox. Shout out to Drew. I actually met him ages ago back when we both lived in San Francisco. He's gone to amazing heights back in the day. And so fantastic company. Here's the bottom line with Dropbox if you're not familiar with it. It will actually do a mirror, which is a fancy tech term, but it will mirror what's on your hard drive. Once it mirrors what's on your hard drive, that means your files, your documents, your pictures. I got little kids, so I got lots of pictures. All that stuff, it will mirror it. When it mirrors it into the cloud, as they say, then it'll allow you to do a couple different things. Number one, you can have a backup to whatever you have on your computer. And that includes your phone as well. So I don't have my phone with me, but your phone, your iPad, whatever, tablet, whatever you got going on. So allows you to have an automatic backup. The second thing is that it allows you to reinstate those files when you need them. So I'm pretty tough with my laptops. Shout out to Apple. I don't think it's any reflection of the quality of their laptops, but I go through Apple laptops like once, twice a year. I actually more like, I'd say every 18 months. Let me be liberal and kind with myself. But whenever you clean your hard drive, which you should do every 6 to 9 months, wipe it clean and then put all the files back on there because a lot of bugs and stuff, viruses and stuff get on there. Or you're like me, you end up getting a new device. You're going to have to get all your stuff back on there. Dropbox makes it super easy to do that. So speaking about cleanliness and organizing the clutter on there. The third advantage is that you can actually use that backup, and I would recommend other backups as well. I have the links below for other backups I use, including one from Western Digital that I use regularly. It'll allow you to use those backups so that you don't have to have everything on your computer. And so if you have really big files, again, I have the Bring Your Worth TV show. This is episode 377. I have every single episode on my hard drives. So that adds up really quickly. You're talking about gigabytes. hundreds of gigabytes. I don't think we're to the terabyte yet, but we're getting there, almost to the terabyte. If you're doing all this media, or if you have a lot of content, or you're working with clients that have PowerPoints and all this other stuff, or music, a lot of y'all are musicians, including some of y'all that I coach, you don't have to store all that just on your hard drive. Therefore, you can focus on whatever you're talking about. Shout out to Karen, who gave a shout out on my LinkedIn when I was sharing this episode, talked about how it's easier to work with an uncluttered desktop. There's a physical desktop, but she was talking about the digital. I'm not going to show you my desktop right now because that's one of the reasons why I'm doing the decluttering episode, because I also want to do research on myself to get better at it. And what I recommend is going through decluttering every 3 to 6 months. It's my time for sure, but I'm working with so many different clients. I'm doing so many things behind the scenes. It's easy to get behind on that clutter. My whole point is that with Dropbox, you're able to have the backup, number one. Number two, you're able to retrieve those files when you get a new device, or let's say that I had a computer die a couple years ago. I was able to buy a new computer and I was up and running by the next day. Literally, I had assignments I think I was working on a book, and in fact, I was working on a book, and all of it came back the next day because of Dropbox and other services. So number two, you're able to recuperate really, really quickly, recover. Number three, you don't have to keep all the stuff on your hard drive. And so as you lose hard drive space, or as you get more expansive in what you're doing, then you can go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to keep this in the cloud. I don't need this manuscript that I did in 2007. I can put that in the cloud for right now, or I can put it on this backup. It gives you that flexibility. Therefore, it allows you to clutter a lot less. If you're not sure how to prioritize things, really, really simple trick to it. It's actually, I want to say, from Stephen Covey. I talk about it in the video. This is actually one of the first Bring Your Worth episodes, episode 71. This was 300 episodes ago. Oh my gosh. So it was one of the first. This is episode 377 right here. This is episode 71. It's like double digits. I want to say this was about 2 years ago. I remember the episode. 7-minute episode, fully recorded, so it's edited and everything. It's not live like this, but it breaks down the simple system using rocks, hence the little rock emoji over there, using rocks to go ahead and break down what your priorities are. Really simple exercise. It'll give you ideally clarity, and then you'll probably have a little bit less clutter when it comes to that. One other recommendation is Cal Newport. Shout out to Cal. Hope you're doing wonderful. He's had 2 books, I believe, that have come out since then. Maybe just 1 book. New one on productivity. I'm still reading it. You will get a review very soon on that, but I'm sure it's great, like all of Cal's work. I interviewed him. It's actually at bringyourworth.tv. You just go look up Cal Newport, or you can see it in the links. When he came out with this book, right when the pandemic was starting, called A World Without Email. It talks about the history of digital clutter, how we shifted to this, even that argument that I gave at the beginning of the talk, or beginning of our show, as far as us expecting the digital world to relieve us from the physical clutter. But in reality, it just gave us 2 worlds of clutter. Man, that thesis can be applied to so many different things, including productivity, which again, Cal addresses in his new book. I had a chance to interview him again at the beginning of the pandemic. It was a great conversation. He also has little kids, so we talked about that, handling things and so forth. Again, the links are available at bringyourworth.tv. So today we're talking about how to reduce your clutter and declutter your small business. Again, as small business owners, which I am one, which I own a couple businesses, we're wearing all the hats. It's a lot easier to get behind on that. I'm entrepreneur coach Damon Brown, coach to side hustlers, solopreneurs, otherwise non-traditional entrepreneurs. You can watch the show every Wednesday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You subscribe for free. Hop in the comments if you have any questions or thoughts about how are you decluttering, and how do priorities play into your struggle to keep things organized in your office. Oh, I like this question. Where do you feel the most pressure? Where do you feel the most pressure? This matters when it comes to decluttering, because often our decluttering is a result of things that are incomplete, things that we want to get to or need to get to, but definitely want to get to, but we haven't done it yet. So there's one thing that's almost done, and we'll put it to the side. And we start another thing that's almost done, and then we get distracted over here. And it's like, oh, I have to do that thing too. And suddenly we have things that are at 80%, 95%, 99%, 60%. Hence my pile right over here, right out of camera shot. Not out of shame, but just it'll be too hard to tilt the camera. I'm not ashamed of it at all. But I'm part of that struggle too. And it depends on what projects you have going on. And again, what is your main priority? When we feel pressure, the best thing we can do, number one, is get things off of our plate. That could be quite simply two different decisions, two different choices. We can either finish something or we can drop it. We can finish something or we can drop it. But if we're feeling that pressure, we need to get it off our plate. And once you look at it more like a dichotomy, as in like just a choice, bilateral choice, whatever highfalutin word you want to use, as soon as you look at it like that, it gets a lot faster because it forces you to think, is this a priority or is this not a priority? Is this a must to do or is this a nice to do? So that's the first part of the process. If you're feeling pressure about a certain thing, is it worth it? If it's worth it, try to find ways to get it done. If it's not worth it, then let it go. But everything can't be worth it. It's the decision. The second part of it is once we decide whether something's worth it or not, and then we go ahead and complete it or we let it go, then that actually leaves room for growth. And that's what I'm really getting at with talking about decluttering. It's not just about, okay, I don't have a place to sit, or I got too many books. Books are my thing. I got too many books, or I got too many papers, or I got too many toys, whatever your dynamic is. That's not really the thing. The thing is that you actually don't have room, psychologically or otherwise, for new things to come in. That's the quiet part said out loud. That's why clutter is overwhelming. It's not overwhelming because it's too much stuff. It's overwhelming because you don't know where to focus. That's why it's overwhelming. And so if you can decide whether you're going to follow through on something or let it go, then automatically go to number two, as far as actually making room for growth. And that could be a new shiny physical thing. It could be a new app or a piece of software that will make your life easier. It could be just a space to think and to emotionally feel a little freer. It could be all three. It kind of doesn't matter. What matters is going through the process of figuring out if it's worth doing or not worth doing. And then once you follow up on it and finish it, or you let it go, then suddenly you have that space. I've had that experience. Give a shout in the comments if you've had that experience as well. That's why my family teases me, where I definitely have that minimalist streak where it's just like, okay, it's feeling too cluttered. It's time to let stuff go. And I'm getting rid of stuff left and right. I'm giving stuff away. I'm selling stuff. It's like it's out of here. But I go through that cycle regularly, a few times a year. If you've been watching for a while, you know I go through the cycle 2 to 3 times a year. I'll go through the cycle where I let go of things. But in my mind and in my experience, that gives that space for me to show up in certain ways that I couldn't if I had so much clutter. Speaking of getting organized and finishing, highly recommend a TED Talk that I did. This is my third TED Talk? Yeah, it's my third TED Talk. Uh, Third TEDx Talk, I should be clear. My second TEDx Talk, third TED Talk in general. And I was talking about why you should strive for good enough. Shout out to TEDx Toledo. Again, the same area where I was an entrepreneur in residence. Again, the link is below. It's above you or below you, depending on what you're watching. You can find the link. The link is in there. And if you miss a conversation at the top of the show, you can just rewind it. But I was entrepreneur in residence, I think around the time, it was right before I was entrepreneur in residence over in Toledo for Toledo Lucas Public Library. Again, I just released it from the vault of my experience there. And this talk is probably my favorite TED Talk that I've done. And it talks about the challenge of us trying to do things at such a high level, trying to be perfect, that we end up not getting things done or not completing things. And the quiet burden that puts on all of us. A 13-minute TED Talk. I think it's worth the time. I'm biased, of course, But I think it's worth the time with if you want to understand the deeper level of what clutter and incomplete things and other things mean within the context of what we're talking about today in livelihood, in your career, and in your personal life. So deep conversation, but hopefully you'll enjoy it. Be sure and check it out. If you want a practical example as far as how to get more clarity for what you're doing, why you're doing it, where you're supposed to be, I'd recommend the app Todoist. One of my favorite. I love that name Todoist. I really do. Um, and let me go ahead and see if I can get Todoist up for y'all. Can you see it? Yes, success. Thumbs up if you can hear me. All right. Todoist, really simple app. We'll go to the features page. And obviously, you can start it for free. And basic stuff. Listen, my family has 3 or 4 different calendars. My partner has her calendar. I have my calendar. We have the family calendar for our kids. And then I have other calendars for the companies that I work with. It's a lot. Some way to organize this actually helps. Trust me on this one. So this allows you to make note of certain things. So and so needs to be picked up from soccer practice. I have a meeting with so and so overseas during this thing. These are real life examples, so I'm not I'm not making this stuff up. Recurring dates or reminders. The integrations actually help a lot because if you work with apps one of my favorite apps is Calendly. Shout out to the founder that allows me to quickly schedule coaching appointments or media interviews when I have a book coming out. I have a podcast interview. They can just go through Calendly. It will integrate with again 80 plus. I didn't realize it was that many, but 80 plus different platforms. It'll just flow right in there. And then this is the killer right here. Syncs across all your devices. I was just talking about the different devices. Dropbox does the same thing. So you start to see this pattern. And then it's available on, I think, pretty much all the platforms. I don't think it's on Linux. Shout out if you know what Linux is. Other than that, I think it's on all the major platforms. And of course, browser extensions, which allows you to do different things. If you are overwhelmed with the clutter of organizing the different places you have to be, particularly if you're a parent to young kids, as I am, and you're managing their schedule because they're kids, this would be a great opportunity for you to check it out. Here are the different, but these are the major features. And again, it's a really simple app. I think if I was still doing the founding, then this feels like one of those apps that I'll be involved in some capacity. So I'm really fascinated by the stuff they're doing over there. You can check out the link. I think with the link that I have, I think you end up getting, it says for free on there. So I think you end up getting a free trial. I forget for how long. Go ahead and check it out. See if it's up your alley. See what's happening with that. Let's go ahead and close that. There we go. Hey, look, we survived. Good job. Always tough changing screens. You fellow presenters and speakers know the deal with that. And then if we're going to talk about dropping stuff, we got to talk about priorities. We're going to talk about organizing our life based on the life we want to live. Got to talk essentialism. Shout out to Greg McEwen. Fascinating book, dog-eared, old. I think there's dust on it. Had it for a while. In fact, I think it was originally my partner's book, and then I ended up gaffling it. Shout out to you if you remember the word gaffle. But it's still in the same house, so it doesn't matter. But I think it came out probably about 15 years ago. He's done other books. Shout out to Greg, but I haven't gotten beyond this one. Fantastic book. Essentialism is not minimalism. It is not minimalism. This whole podcast, shout out to the minimalists. This whole podcast and platforms and books about that. This is not about minimalism. No. This is about figuring out what matters the most in your life, which is not minimalism. Minimalism is basically saying, I'm only going to have so much stuff, usually physical. Essentialism is saying, this is the priority. Again, this is where that Greek term priority, where they discuss this. I believe it was Greek that I talked about at the top of the show. This is my priority. Everything's going to be built around it. That's a whole different thing. When I did my first 2 startups, I was at home with my kid from when he was 4 months old to we ended up selling the second startup right after his second birthday. So it was a good 2-year stretch. My essentialism was my kid is my priority. Everything else is going to be built around that. But that enabled me to do stuff I'm really proud of, um, to help take care of my family in many different ways and different resources, to show up in certain ways, even to write books around that period of time. It allowed me to do that because I knew that our first son was a priority of everything. So if it was falling apart as far as taking care of him, then everything else would fall apart. That was my opinion at the time. Still a very strong opinion. He doesn't need me as much. Even our youngest, who just turned 8, doesn't need me as much. But for those first 5 years, he and then later on they were the center of everything that I did, and everything would have to work within that. I was even an entrepreneur in residence while both of them, I believe, were under the age of 5. I don't mean that as a flex. What I mean that is that I knew what my priority was, and thank God I did. Now they're older, and they're about to start middle school. It's just a different phase, but I was able to be fully present for them because I built everything around them. Now they don't need me as much, so my essentialism is a little bit different. Now it's like, no, my focus is on my family, but I'm also going to build my career, and I'm going to start ghostwriting some over here. I'm going to start this show. I started this show around the time that our youngest turned 5. That's not a coincidence. It was 3 years ago. He just turned 8. It follows that pattern. It follows that blueprint. Once they started going to school, preschool or regular or kindergarten, they didn't need me as much. That is essentialism. Greg is so honest, and it's so beautifully said in this, where he was like, I had this moment, and I do with kids. I had this moment. He's like, my priorities are jacked up. What exactly am I doing? That's where the book came from. So what exactly is the most important thing to you right now? Now that might change again over time. That's okay. But what's the most important thing right now? And what are you feeling the most pressure on? Usually, go back to the first question and then this current question with what are you feeling the most pressure on? That's usually knowing our main priority usually helps take the pressure off. These two things are connected. That's why I'm asking these two questions. If you know your priority is over here and there's something stressful over here, you're not going to be stressing about that as much as it is over here. It's almost like a weighted focus. So when I was going through startup stress, I talk about that again in the complete Bring Your Worth collection. When I was going through startup stress, when I was going through certain challenges and issues, it was always came back to, well, is our boy okay? Oh, our kid is fine. Okay. All right. Well, let's hire a lawyer for this. Okay. Well, I'll do an all nighter over here. That's fine. Oh yeah, this is not working anymore. Well, let's pivot in a different direction. Like that made it so much easier because my main focus was on him, not on all of this. And once you start to work through that, I think it becomes a lot easier to declutter mentally, physically, emotionally. What exactly, what exactly is important to you? Because then the rest of it falls to the wayside. Again, the rock example, and I'll throw that link back up again. Can't emphasize this enough. How to organize your life right now. Be sure and check out that link. If you're like, Damon, that sounds like me, but I'm not sure what to focus on, it's time to have that conversation, even if it's with yourself. Today, we're talking about decluttering. Declutter your small business. Again, as small business owners, we're wearing all the hats, all the hats. And so, if we're going to wear all the hats, that means we need to find good ways to manage it. Again, I gave some software and book recommendations. If you missed them, they're all below. I'm an entrepreneurial coach to side hustlers, solopreneurs, otherwise non-traditional entrepreneurs. Bring Your Worth TV is every Wednesday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. This is episode 337, I think. There's 336 episodes, 36? 36 episodes well before this. So if you want some more insight, be sure and check that out. You subscribe for free. And a complete Bring Your Worth collection is available everywhere, including on this channel. If you want to listen to the audiobook right now, just click the link. Be sure and jump in if you have any questions or thoughts. Where are you feeling the most pressure? Let me know below. All right. Last question. Last setup question, I should say. Sorry. Suddenly my computer's like, I don't know what you're trying to do, Damon. question is, does Damon know what he's trying to do? Here we go. How can I organize? How can you organize? How can I organize? Me too. How can you organize based on your mindset? This is an important one. We've already been talking about mindset quite a bit. And when it comes to clutter and things not being organized, it often has to do with how you're thinking about things. Now, at the top of the show, we talked about um, what's your main priority, right? What's your main thing? Middle of the show, we talked about where you're feeling the most pressure. Because sometimes when we feel pressure, it's because we're making ourselves do something, or we're getting concerned about something that actually isn't our priority. If something's your priority and you feel pressure behind it, that's a little bit more natural. But I found often when we feel pressure, it's because of something that is kind of coming from the side or that isn't quite in our view. It's like we don't quite see it. And that leads to this third thing. How can we organize ourselves based on our mindset? And I think it comes down to two really simple, basic questions. Number one, where are you now? What is your main priority? Where's your business at right now? Where are you putting all your energy? For my business, I can break it down. I have like four main businesses or ways I make a living, if you want to call it that. I hate that term, but I can't think of a better term. I can go and say, oh, okay, well, 10% comes from this, 20% comes from this, 55 to 60% comes from this, and that remaining chunk comes from this. But that remaining chunk is a little bit of a wild card, so I'm not going to invest in that too much as far as time and energy. The more you're able to break that down, and I write this down regularly, I think about it regularly, at least a few times a year. Once a quarter would probably be ideal. Once you break that down, then you know, again, what your focus should be on and what clutter you don't need. Again, right now I'm ghostwriting and doing a lot of things related to communication. So maybe I should have a ton of books, which I'm looking at right now. I should have a ton of books on my desk because that's been the focus since the beginning of the year as far as the main way that I've made a living and or the main way that I've been serving people. So it makes sense for me to have a stack of books. If I wasn't helping people with their books or their communications, then me having a stack of books here wouldn't quite make sense because that's not where my focus should be. So the first thing is figuring out, where are you now? Where is your business leading you? How are the percentages broken up if you do multiple businesses or services or products like I do? The second part, which you can probably guess, is where am I going to be 6 to 12 months from now? So if I know that I'm going to go from having 1 to 2 episodes of the bringyourworth.tv right now, and then a year from now, I want to have 5 episodes a week, which is a lot. I'm not planning on doing that, but I've done crazier things. But let's say I'm going to 5 episodes a week, say exactly a year from now, then I should already be organizing my office to make sure that my lighting is in a stronger position. The lighting is getting weird because spring has sprung, so it's a little hot here in Vegas. So this lighting is a little weird. So it's like, well, maybe I'll get better lighting so it's better year round. And then maybe instead of me doing the editing myself, maybe I'll go ahead and get an assistant or whatever, because I know I'm going to be ramping it up. If I ramp it up, that means probably more money will be coming in based on it, because I'll sell more books, more ancillary items, maybe even make more money directly from the show. And so if that's the case, then I should really bring a virtual or physical assistant to help me with this. And that will help with the declutter. Like, do you see what I mean? Once you go to that, you say, this is where I'm at now. This is where I'm going to be 6 to 12 months from now. Do I need all this? Or more importantly, what is the stuff that I need? The rest of it I can give away. Or if you want to be really visionary, you say, okay, I'm going to be in this place 5 years from now, but I don't need to read this book right now. I'm going to be in this zone 3 years from now, but do I really need this contract right now? No. Well, why don't I get a file cabinet and put it away? Because I don't need it right now. That's the emphasis of this episode, that we're kind of circling around that, is that it's not a matter of things not being needed. It's not like the stuff that you held on to or the stuff that's building up that clutter is worthless. It's more like not all of it is valuable right now. Is it all valuable right now? Probably not. So we need to figure out what percentage is valuable and important right now to your business and maybe even to your livelihood, and what part is it? You might not need it anymore. You might not need it until, again, 3 to 5 years from now. In either case, either throw it away or put it away. That's it. If it helps you run your business, keep it. If it's not, throw it away or put it away. That's my take on the big Marie Kondo energy. You know she was going to come up during this episode. All right. One app that I think works really well with having a discussion, particularly with the physical, is something called Shoeboxed. Again, I love these app names. App names are hard to do. I can speak from experience. Man, they're hard to do. There we go. The number one, I didn't realize it was number one, receipt scanner app, loved by over 1 million businesses. You notice they don't say people, they say businesses. If this joint existed when I first started, then my office clutter would have been a lot cleaner with the years, now I can say decades that I've been in business. Really simple. Turn your receipts into data for automatic data extraction. In other words, it will go ahead and read your stuff, and then it'll turn that stuff into digital numbers and words. And once it turns into digital numbers and words, you go and put into whatever software you want or save it on Dropbox. You see the thread here? The Dropbox link is below if you happen to miss that part of the conversation. For expense reporting, if you have a corporation, whatever, tax prep, we just got out of tax season here in America. Might as well get started on next year. And of course, so much more. It's really simple. Let me go and give you the features. But there's really not a whole lot to it. Get paper off your desk, and into action. That's it. That's it. And they have an app as well as a what do you call it? A website. What's the thing I'm talking on a website? And as you can see, it translates and works well with Gmail and other things where it's automated. I have one of my favorite apps is called Tripit. It's TRIPIT. Old school app. I think it's been old school for apps. It was on like the original iOS, I think. So when the iPhone first came out. So I want to say it's been around for like at least 10 years, maybe 15. And what Tripit does is that if you're booking a particular flight, I use Delta myself. So if you're booking a particular flight, you can go ahead and send the email, or it can coordinate with your email once you get the flight information, and then it'll save it all within the app. It'll let you know if there's a delay or if flight gets canceled or whatever. It usually works faster than the airlines contacted me. And I used to travel a lot, guaranteed. It was crazy. I'm waiting on the tarmac. I get a buzz, and Tripit is saying, hey, there's a delay to Pittsburgh. Sorry. Why don't you look at some other flights? And then it'll be like another 20 minutes on the tarmac. And then it's like, there's your captain speaking. And they tell us that, of course, there's a delay or a cancellation. It's happened to me numerous times. I bring that up, shout out to Tripit, but I bring that up because this is similar to that, where it's kind of taking out, the lack of a better term, the middleman, so that it could just be coordinated. So you go out to dinner. I live in Las Vegas. So you take a client out on the strip, and you go and you have a meal that could be coordinated so that that receipt, once you get on your credit card statement or whatever, will be coordinated with Shoebox. And then they'll go and organize it for you, which is perfect for tax time. Again, we just went through tax time here in America. And every year it's like, okay, how am I going to organize this? This will help you on your way. It works with Xero, works with QuickBooks and other ones. We're going to get to that in a second. But that is Shoebox. I like the platform quite a bit. Be sure and check it out. And I think there's a bonus with the link that I'm giving you too. And you actually saw a preview of what I was going to say too. Shoebox works with QuickBooks, and I will share that screen. If you have a small business, you're probably already familiar with QuickBooks quite a bit. There we go. Oh my gosh. See, try for 30 days, which is part of my link. And QuickBooks essentially will be like a virtual accountant for you. Not a CPA, big difference, right? It's not going to get into the deep tax stuff and get stuff organized in that way, but it will help you declutter, whether it's receipts, particularly if you tie it with Shoebox. You see the pattern here, organizing your receipts, getting stuff out of your office and into a digital platform. And even in recent years, they actually work with tax prep folks I want to say H&R Block and some other folks where you can actually file your taxes through there. My business has gotten big and to the point, and of course I have a family now, so we actually have a person that prepares our taxes because my business is at that point. My wife has her own stuff going on. Like it's just a lot. You got kids, it gets a little bit complicated. But if you have a small business, a side hustle, as I started off, QuickBooks was my go-to for probably the first decade of me having a freelance and independent business. Might have been longer than that now I think about it. Number one, you can actually file through there, which you could not do back in the day when I was using them. Number two, they actually are using AI now, which is different. It's different now to actually figure out how you can maximize your savings and other things of that nature, and even guiding you as far as where you're spending the most money and where you can spend more money, that kind of thing. The third part is that they actually have a sale coming up, and I think it's going to be rolling out over the next week or so. Be sure and check it out, but click on the link and you can learn all about that. And my last recommendation is Get Organized Now 2023. It was me talking more about the digital side of getting organized versus the physical. There's a little bit with the physical, but more on the digital. This one I feel like is a little bit more on the physical. Be sure and check it out. There's some other recommendations that I give. It's 2023, but it's still very timely. Be sure to check it out if you want to go deeper until that. All right. I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown. I coach side hustlers, solopreneurs, other non-traditional entrepreneurs. Bring Your Worth shows every Wednesday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You subscribe for free below, or just go to bringyourworth.tv to subscribe. And the Bring Your Worth collection is available everywhere, including at damonbrown.net if you want a signed copy, if you want your Bring Your Worth shirt, want your mug. Check it out at damonbrown.net. You can also listen to the audiobook for free of the complete Bring Your Worth collection at the link right below. My way of giving back. And also, if you guys are abroad on the road, as I talk about every episode, a lot of the people that I coach are bi-coastal or going overseas and coming back. Shout out to y'all. Hope your travels are well. If you're in that position and you can't get the physical book or things are too active, just click on the link below. Check it out. You can listen to the whole audiobook for free. I think it's about 8 hours because it really is the complete collection. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And yeah, here's to decluttering and getting stuff together because it's springtime here in North America. And let's make some space for some magic to happen. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Until next time, remember, you can always bring your worth. You can always build from now. Take care of yourselves and others.